chapter 14. Even though, again, now we finished Passover, now we are still in the Passover story. We got some good names to start. Well, let a little bit of a fun confusion and place names to start us off. Let's join together in our blessing for the study of Torah. Baruch atah Eloheinu melech haolam asher kitshanu b'mitzvotav v'tzivanu la'asok b'divrei Torah. Excellent. Rick, start us off.
The Lord said to Moses, tell the Israelites to turn back and encamp before Pi-Hahirot.
Good enough.
Between Migdol and the sea, before Baal-Zephon, you shall encamp facing it by the sea. Pharaoh will say of the Israelites, they are astray in the land. The wilderness has closed in on them. Then I will stiffen Pharaoh's heart, and he will pursue them, that I may gain glory through Pharaoh and all his hosts. And the Egyptians shall know that I am the Lord. And they did so.
So it's good. And they did so. Sounds about right. When God tells you to do something, one should do it. Doesn't always work out that way. But and they did so is nice in the affirmative. So it's time to go. We're schlepping in the wilderness. We remember we're escaping Egypt. And God is providing the eternal GPS. Turn right here, 100 meters. Recalculating. And so we are moving on. God's telling Moses, the Pharaoh and the army, they're coming, so let's be prepared. And as soon as that happens, a little foreshadowing.
When the king of Egypt was told that the people had fled, Pharaoh and his courtiers had a change of heart about the people and said, what is this we have done, releasing Israel from our service? He ordered his chariot and took his men with him. He took 600 of his pick-packed chariots and the rest of the chariots of Egypt with officers in all of them.
Okay, and so as God says, Pharaoh's going to change his mind, and lo and behold, Pharaoh changes his mind. Pharaoh gets everything together. This is terrible. Who's going to build my pyramids? Who's going to build my cities? This ain't going to work. The Egyptians are going to unionize. We can't have any of this, so we need to have the armies to come chase down the escaping Israelites. Because Pharaoh, once again, is fickle. His heart and mind are fickle, and he is determined once again to enslave the Israelites. Spoiler alert, doesn't end well. Okay. Tyler, you want to go on from there?
Sure. Exactly.
Yep.
The Lord stiffened the heart of Pharaoh, king of Egypt, and he gave chase to the Israelites. As the Israelites were departing defiantly, the Egyptians gave chase to them, and all the chariot horses of Pharaoh. His horsemen and his warriors overtook them and camped by the sea, near Pi-Hahirot, before Baal-Zephon.
Yeah, hopefully we get that a few more times. Keep on getting this place name going on. Yeah. I'm not sure I've ever departed anywhere defiantly. I've departed in different ways. I've never departed defiantly, I think. I'm not that kind of guy. I can sort of march out with anger and defiance. I usually depart cordially, lackadaisically perhaps sometimes, but never really defiantly. But they're marching out with defiance because they are all done with Pharaoh. Okay, but Pharaoh not done with them. Tyler, a little more. It's Pharaoh.
Pharaoh drew near. The Israelites caught sight of the Egyptians advancing upon them. Greatly frightened, the Israelites cried out to the Lord.
Good line coming up.
And they said to Moses, was it for want of graves in Egypt that you brought us to die in the wilderness? What have you done to us, taking us out of Egypt? Is it not the very thing we told you in Egypt, saying, let us be, and we will serve the Egyptians, for it is better for us?
Pages.
To serve the Egyptians than to die in the wilderness. But Moses said to the people, have no fear, stand by and witness the deliverance which the Lord will work for you today. For the Egyptians whom you see today, you'll never see again. The Lord will battle for you and hold your peace.
I just love this paragraph. It's fantastic. So this is, of course, the climactic moment of the story. The sea is in front of them. The Egyptian army is behind them. Everyone going to die, right? Like, this is really tough going right here. They are really in between the rock and the hard place, so to speak. And then when all their fear, trepidation, terror, just like, they still find a way to be snarky towards Moses. They find out their way to snark. Was it for want of graves in Egypt that you brought us out here to die? We could have just died there. Why do you want to bring us out here to die? So even in their fear and terror, they're sarcastic and snarky. And then so they keep going with this. Didn't we tell you? Not that we want to say I told you so. Hold on, don't slaughter us just yet. But we told you so, Moses. This was going to be a problem. And then Moses just goes into superhero mode. Have no fear. Spider-Man is here. Stand by and witness deliverance, because these Egyptians who you see today, you ain't never going to see them again. He just goes into this complete, badass mode. I like it. Moses is pretty tough. Have no fear. God is going to battle for you. And you hold your peace is basically just tell them, shut up already, but Moses can't say shut up. It's not very prophetic. But hold your peace is basically all you're going to get. Moses snaps a little later like a stale breadstick, but right now he's still in control of his faculties, and just tells them, hey, have a little faith. This is going to work out okay. Then, of course, God says to Moses, and Moses can pick up here.
Then the Lord said to Moses, why do you cry out to me? Tell the Israelites to go forward, and you lift up your rod and hold out your arm over the sea and split it, so that the Israelites may march into the sea on dry ground. And I will stiffen the hearts of the Egyptians, so that they go in after them, and I will gain glory through Pharaoh and all his warriors, his chariots, and his horsemen. Let the Egyptians know that I am Lord, when I gain glory through Pharaoh, his chariots, and his horsemen.
I love this, scene with Moses. Moses gets done chastising the Israelites, and then God says, why are you talking to me for? Just move it, let's go. One of my favorite midrashim, my favorite bits of rabbinic interpretation, they imagine the scene of the Israelites at the sea, and Moses sort of up on a hill, sort of a cliff top, whatever it is. And Moses is there davening, he's doing all this praying. And God calls out to him, Moses, it's time for a long prayer and it's time for a short prayer. Now is the time for a short prayer. Lift up your staff, go, move it. Now's not the time to be this davening. It's not time for that. Time to put a little speed into it. Let's move a little quicker here. And then, once Moses lifts up the rod, the sea splits. We're going to see in a minute. And God tells you what's going to happen here. So the Israelites can march dry shod, into the dry ground. And for the 8th time in the past 3 paragraphs, we get, stiffening the hearts of the Egyptians, and gaining glory, right, through Pharaoh, his chariots, and the riders, meaning that God is going to bring about their downfall to show that God is God and the Egyptian deities not so much. And so that's how God is going to gain glory in this. Let's keep going.
God is a braggart.
God likes the kudos, to be sure. God wants the recognition, so to speak, and perhaps because that's going to make society a little better if we had a little more faith, a little belief in that higher power. But God definitely wants everyone to know who's in charge.
Just completely lack faith over and over and over and over again.
It doesn't take long. The comment was made off you had heard that the Israelites keep on lacking faith, and it happens right quick. So they're literally 20 minutes out of Egypt. They haven't even watched, an episode of their favorite sitcom yet, and they're already losing faith, in God after 10 plagues. It's like it wasn't that long ago, right, that they were leaving Egypt after the death of the firstborn, and ice turning into fire and darkness and all this other stuff. And they're like, first sign of trouble. We're in trouble now. We're in for it. Where's your Messiah now? It's a problem. And so right off the bat, they're a little bit off kilter.
Yeah. Rabbi, why does God have to gain glory? I mean, didn't he get enough glory with his 10 plagues?
No, I need more glory. Everyone needs a little more glory. No, Pharaoh isn't done yet. I think is sort of the point. Pharaoh is still coming after them. And so Pharaoh is still not yet convinced that God is God, and his courtiers and all of his lackeys aren't convinced yet. And so God needs to sort of give them the final battle here. Finish him, sort of like Mortal Kombat, it's going to be, that's not this crowd. So, but yes, it's one more step in that direction to show that God is supreme over Pharaoh and the Egyptians. They haven't got the message yet. And frankly, the Israelites haven't gotten the message yet, apparently, because the Israelites are all trembling in fear at the first sign of trouble. Now, let's be fair, seems like a lot of trouble, when you have their particular predicament, when the sea's in front of them and the army's behind them. It's like, oh, it's going to be fine. God, can you just take care of this, check, please. Let's get this going here. I mean, I think they'd have a right to be terrified. It's not, really fair to say, hey, why didn't they have more faith? It really wasn't the best scenario to be in. It's like, oh, it'll be fine.
Made a good movie.
This is great. It's going to be perfectly fine. No, I mean, I think it's right for them to have been a little worried that this was not going to end well for them. So God's going to prove to the Israelites and prove to the Egyptians that God is the boss. God is God here. Sharon, you want to pick up the messenger?
Sure. The messenger of God, who had been going ahead of the Israelite army, now moved and followed behind them. And the pillar of cloud shifted from in front of them and took up a place behind them. And it came between the army of the Egyptians and the army of Israel. Thus there was the cloud with the darkness, and it cast a spell upon the night, so that the one could not come near the other all through the night.
Excellent. And so again, I just love these passages because it's really like God is putting on a show here. So the messenger / angel, however you want to put it, of God, who's been, sort of leading the charge, made a little shift. So now instead of being in the front, he's in the middle. I don't know if angels are gendered. It's just easier to say he in this category, in this place. So the pillar of cloud shifts from the front. Because remember, they follow Anan, they follow the cloud. So the cloud goes to the middle. And then there was darkness, and it cast a spell upon the night. Spell Upon the Night, ironically enough, was the name of my folk album. So that one.
I thought it was Bring in the Clouds. Maybe that would work.
So that one could not come near the other all throughout the night. So yeah, so it's so that they don't know what's going on. It's more darkness. It's more darkness, more confusion. And they can't see each other. Again, one would get the impression maybe they would turn around. Sharon, one more, then Moses.
Sure. Then Moses held out his arm over the sea, and God drove back the sea with a strong east wind all that night and turned the sea into dry ground. The waters were split, and the Israelites went into the sea on dry ground. The waters formed a wall for them on their right and on their left.
It's a pretty cool scene, you have to admit. And it's an east wind. I think the east wind was one that brings in the locusts, right? And the west wind takes them out. Yeah, and so the east wind sort of comes and does its thing. Now, as we have this paragraph, let's take a moment and remember our friend Nachshon. The story of Nachshon is that he is the one who first walks into the sea before it splits. That Moses sort of lifts the rod and nothing happens. And then all the tribes are sort of fighting with each other. And I'm not going to go first. You go first. I mean, I don't like this at all. Who wants soggy feet? I don't want this. So Nachshon sort of walks in ankle deep, water still not split. Walks in knee deep, water still not split. Gets up to his hip. Still keeps walking. And when the water gets to his nose, that's when the seas part. When he can no longer sort of breathe, because that's sort of the act of faith. And Nachshon is from the tribe of Judah, and it's for this reason that Judah gets the kingship, sort of later. They get to have sort of the monarchy. One of the explanations was from the story of Nachshon. Nachshon is not mentioned in this narrative. He's only mentioned in the Torah a handful of times. He gets named. There's a tradition that he is Miriam's husband, though there are other people who get that role in other places. But Nachshon, he gets his midrashic moment here, that he gets to walk into the sea. And according to a tradition that I actually learned from Cantor Orangel, that there's a tradition we say, Micha Mocha, because that's him gagging on the water as he goes in. And that's why you have a Cha verse, and then it's Mi Kamocha in the next verse, because the seas have split at that point. And so it's a Cha to begin and a Ka in the second line. It's really all about grammar, but it's still a nice little midrash. There's a grammatical.
Rabbi, he's not thought of as a hero. I mean, he doesn't have that much glory as a hero, the first one to step into the water. And...
Well, in the midrash he gets it.
He does.
It's really built up, because that's why he's not mentioned here at all as part of the story. It's a rabbinic invention, really, to talk about faith and to talk about the reason why Judah is the highest amongst the tribes, because they have people like Nachshon, who is like a superhero, but he doesn't really get a lot of love in the Torah because it's not a Torah story. It's a later rabbinic, creation, like the Hanukkah candles, it's a later rabbinic invention. So Nachshon splits the sea. It's a fun kid story and a fun adult story too, for Nachshon, and there's a couple different versions of it, but I love that idea of him walking into the sea. It goes back to that story of Moses, where it's like it's a time for prayer and it's a time for action, and so Nachshon wasn't sitting there going, oh, let's wait for the sea to split. He was sort of like moving forward, thinking, well, there's going to be a miracle, there's going to be something good that's going to happen here, we're going to just keep on swimming, keep going forward, right? So and it worked out. Either that or he got very soggy, but it worked out okay. Not so much for the Egyptians. Leah, you want to pick up here? The Egyptians came. You got to unmute.
Okay.
There you go.
The Egyptians came in pursuit after them into the sea, all of Pharaoh's horses, chariots, and riders. At the morning watch, Adonai looked down upon the Egyptian army from the pillar of fire and cloud and threw the Egyptian army into panic. God locked the wheels of their chariots so that they moved forward with difficulty. And the Egyptians said, "Let us flee from the Israelites, for Adonai is fighting for them against us." Then Adonai said to Moses, "Hold out your arm over the sea, then the waters may come back upon the Egyptians and upon the chariots and upon their riders."
Indeed. So the Israelites are marching through. The Egyptians, let's get them, and then God, sort of after the pancakes, looks down and sees, hey, all these Egyptians are coming, and this pillar of fire and cloud. Again, I like when God puts on a show in Exodus. So there's a pillar of fire and cloud, and it's awesome and the earliest sense of the word, full of awe, and wonder at this time. And the Egyptian army all of a sudden freaks out. God puts the boot on the chariots, like when your car is in the wrong place, they put the boot on your car. Like that's sort of why I picture the chariots having a lot of trouble here. They can't really move forward. And the Egyptians say, let's flee from the Israelites. Well, buddies, you're a day late and $1 short on that one. You had your chance, but you've come too far, and now you're in trouble. Then God tells Moses, it's time for you to seal their fate here. Give another one of those lift up the staff moments, and that'll show them. That'll learn them. They won't remember.
So Hollywood-like.
So Hollywood-like, as we said, it's a great movie.
Mm-hmm.
Good in the Bible, good on the silver screen. Maybe you need a better adaptation, but I can't. I didn't see the last one, but I'll need no Legal Brenner, Charlton Heston one, and the Disney one, or Pixar, or whoever, DreamWorks. I don't know who did Prince of Egypt.
They did another one?
No, that's the cards. Oh yeah, there was one like that was, I don't know, maybe 10 years ago or whatever it was. Of it.
I was watching stuff.
Yeah, when you had something, you can find it. Believe me, if you flip enough channels on the 1,500 channels of cable TV, there's usually something about Moses somewhere. You can always find another movie. But CGI, God invented CGI.
Prince of Egypt movie.
Say again?
I was just looking up to see who did the movie.
Yeah, so a lot of good movies, come out. They haven't made like Disney Esther yet. I thought that was low hanging fruit. That eventually, that would be like the Disney princess movie was Esther, but haven't gotten there. No Jewish Disney princesses.
Yeah, not yet.
We can wait.
Disney Jewish movies at all? Are there any Disney stories that?
The question was there any Disney Jewish movies at all? American Tail, Fievel Goes West. That wasn't Disney, was it?
I don't think so.
No.
And even that's
I don't think so.
Fievel, Papa.
They don't sell any of that stuff.
Yeah. So no.
Well, actually, Esther the Queen was made as a movie in the 50s.
In the 50s.
Yes, it was a CinemaScope big screen movie.
Really?
Yes, it was.
Who was in it?
I can't tell you, but I remember seeing it. I think it was called Esther the Queen.
I looked that up recently, and there's some dispute on how anti-Semitic he was. That was,
Walt?
yeah, there's some dispute there. I Googled it recently. I forgot why, but I wanted to Google him about his anti-Semitism. He definitely associated with a lot of anti-Semites, but it was also, you couldn't scratch like two other people up finding an anti-Semite. So it's how much you're gonna judge the man. But it was because I guess he had like Jewish people working for him who said, "Oh, whatever, he was fine," But there are other sort of like anecdotal evidence. But again, when did he die?
1966.
66. It's like, I remember why, because it came up with all these discussions about Disney and like Disney being woke right now or whatever it is. And it's like people commenting, that's not what Walt Disney would have wanted. And I'm pretty sure Walt Disney wouldn't have liked, Jews, gays, blacks, women, and overly involved in things that Disney were doing at the time. So I don't know if what Walt wants is really a question in 2022. He's been dead for a long time. But I don't know.
He was Main Street USA, and he was no friend of Jews. But as far as doing an animated version, the Prince of Egypt sort of preempted that, and doing another animated version, given Spielberg's Prince of Egypt.
Yeah, Spielberg was, because Michelle Pfeiffer, I remember, was someone, I'm pretty sure, in the animated version. Not to get all IMDb, Internet Movie Database on this. I don't remember who played anyone, but I'm pretty sure Michelle Pfeiffer was in it. Pretty sure. Is Michelle Pfeiffer Jewish? Like half Jewish? I remember Adam Sandler's Hanukkah songs. If Michelle Pfeiffer ever made it into one of the Hanukkah songs. We're a little upstream.
Goldie Hawn, who's half Jewish.
Yes, Lenny Kravitz is half Jewish. Goldie Hawn, half too.
Mhm.
But yeah, I don't know if Michelle Pfeiffer ever made it. She sounds like Michelle Pfeiffer sounds like could be, in there. I don't know. Anyway, We're upfield.
Yes, she is. She's Zipporah.
She's Zipporah in the movie. Yeah, no, yeah, I definitely knew she was in it. Okay. Sandra Bullock was Miriam? What a cast! My goodness.
Wow.
Goldblum was Aaron. Martin Short.
Jeff Goldblum and Martin Short.
Martin H-U-Y. I don't know who that is.
Isn't that a band?
So anyway, let's keep moving forward. My goodness, I got us stuck in the mud. Here we go. Like the Egyptians, we got stuck in the mud for a second there. How about that tangent? Okay, Leo, give me a little more. Moses held out his arm.
Moses held out his arm over the sea, and at daybreak the sea returned to its normal state, and the Egyptians fled at its approach. But Adonai hurled the Egyptians into the sea.
Get
the
back in
waters turned. Pardon?
Get back in there.
The waters turned back and covered the chariots and the riders, Pharaoh's entire army that followed them into the sea. Not one of them remained, but the Israelites had marched through the sea on dry ground, the waters forming a wall for them on their right and on their left. Thus, Adonai delivered Israel that day from the Egyptians. Israel saw the Egyptians dead on the shore of the sea. And when Israel saw the wondrous power which Adonai had wielded against the Egyptians, the people feared Adonai. They had faith in Adonai for a while and in God's servant Moses.
There we go. So if we don't dwell too long on the dead Egyptians by the water, it's still a very good story. The more we dwell on that, it's a little bit rougher. But yeah, everyone remains. It's like God hurls them into the sea. Like God actively makes sure that they get their comeuppance. They're like trying to get out of the water, and God just chucks them back in, like a mean father teaching his son how to swim. Get back in there, Timmy! No! Throwing him back into the water. Swim! You can do it. And here Pharaoh is not getting it done. So the entire army gets drowns in the sea, and the Israelites are victorious.
It doesn't really say whether or not Pharaoh himself is drowned.
No, I think they imagine Pharaoh sort of like, yeah. The guy isn't in the front, into the what's that called in the military when you're the first group in?
Point.
Sure. He wasn't running point on this. He was sort of in the background.
He was standing just where Moses was standing.
Yeah.
Then Moses went in, and then Pharaoh stood there and he watched.
He watches everything. Don't want to get his hands dirty. He's in the rear guard. He's in the back.
Mm-hmm. Let's go home.
Yeah, he's like, and I think he sees it ends and goes, "That stunk." And then he sort of turns around and walks back, or not walks. I'm assuming he had, the chariot and the whole thing.
He's still in his chariot.
He's still in his chariot. He's okay. And so Israel again sees the power that God wields against the Egyptians. The people again, feared. I put here as the translation. The argument can be made for revere instead of fear. And they had faith in God. The whole fear versus revere, translation. It depends on what you prefer. Reverend sounds good, but I think at that point people were sort of, a tad jittery. And so they might be fearing, sort of God's awesome power. But they had faith, and they lived happily ever after again.
Yeah, their faith lasted for 2 pages.
That didn't happen. Yeah.
I was like, 2 pages. There we go.
It sort of reminds me of a cartoon where that was the joke. It's like after they finished this thing, and okay, what's next? 40 years of wandering in the wilderness. And the other guy goes, well, after this, though, it's all smooth sailing for the Jews, right? Yeah, pretty much. It'll be fine. It'll be easy. No problem. We'll never have problems again.
Just like they had faith in Adonai.
Yeah, just like they had faith in Adonai, which, like, if we make it to chapter 16, do we make it to 16 before they get angry, or still in 15, or they get a little nuts? 15, very famous part of the Torah. This is the Shirat Hayam, the Song of the Sea. The Israelites sing a song to God, sing this sort of like poem. And they're rejoicing, look, they came out, they escaped, they came out better on the other end. And now they have this moment of celebration, of joy, of, a little bit of spiritual ecstasy, maybe, just they're really having a really good moment here. Moses and the Israelites sang the song. Karen, you want to pick up right there?
Oh yeah, we're going to sing about this now.
Yeah.
Then Moses and the Israelites sang this song to Adonai. They said, I will sing to Adonai, for God has triumphed gloriously. Horse and driver God has hurled into the sea. Adonai has become my deliverance. This is my God, and I will enshrine God, the God of my father's house, and I will exalt God. Adonai the warrior. Adonai is God's name.
The warrior.
Good job, Karen.
Yeah,
I like the song.
A little song. And so Moses and the Israelites, again, together sing this song. It's the first time anyone has sung the song, so it's a spontaneous sort of singing. One of the ideas is Moses sings the song first, and the Israelites repeat, the song after him, or they sort of alternate verses, but somehow they wind up singing this song together. And song keeps going. Didn't mean to cut up a good song. Karen, you want to keep going?
Well, Moses is the only one that knows the tune. So Pharaoh's chariots and his army God has cast into the sea, and the pick of his officers are drowned in the sea of reed. The deeps covered them. The depth, the deeps.
Rolling in the deep.
Yeah, okay. They went down into the depths like a stone. Your right hand, Adonai, glorious in power. Your right hand, Adonai, shatters the foe. In your great triumph, you break your opponents. You send forth your fury. It consumes them like straw. At the blast of your nostrils, the waters piled up. The flood stood straight like a wall. The deeps froze in the heart of the sea.
Yeah, the deeps.
And in the deeps, singing in the deeps. Okay.
Yeah. God's got that right hand, God's got the Ali shuffle here.
Yeah.
God floats like a butterfly, stings like a bee. Breaks their opponents.
Smell of fruit.
A little bit of that. A little bit of the right hand. The Yad Chazakah, the strong hand.
Of God.
The strong hand comes to get him. Gary, you want to pick up the foe said?
The foe said, I will pursue, I will overtake, I will divide the spoil. My desire shall have its fill of them. I will bear my sword, my hand shall subdue them. You made your wind blow, the sea covered them, they sank like lead in the majestic waters.
Painting a picture with words here. Foe says, I'm gonna do what I do. I'm gonna be the strong one. I'm gonna be the one to be victorious. And then God gives a little bit of that nostril blow, and that's it.
Doesn't God get upset though? What they were doing?
God gets upset in the midrash when the angels are cheering.
Yeah.
All this stuff, and USA. I think I was like, no, that's not what we're doing here. We're not celebrating. We're not having a party.
Yeah, he was destroying his creatures, and it upset him.
Yeah, so God weeps according to the midrash. At all this destruction.
Okay. Shall I go on?
Yeah, please go on.
Who was like you, Adonai? Among the celestials, who is like you? Majestic in holiness, awesome in splendor, working wonders. You put your right hand, the earth swallowed them. In your love, you led the people you redeemed. In your strength, you guide them to your holy abode. The peoples hear, they tremble. Agony grips the dwellers in Philistria. Now are the clans of Edom dismayed. The tribes of Moab, trembling grips them. All the dwellers in Canaan are aghast.
aghast. Everyone's scared of what's going on. So yeah, here we have that Mi Chamocha quote there, who and I among the other deities, the celestials. So we're going to translate Bo Elim. So that's what we have that text from it that has become part of our liturgy. The right hand, remember, it's the right hands for most folk, that's the dominant hand. And so that's why you get a lot of the right hand stuff as opposed to left. Left's a little weaker. And so that's why you get the, the right hand of God, being the hand that sort of comes out to do stuff. And people are redeemed and people are thrilled, except for all those who, surprise, surprise, might oppose the Israelites. All those folk, they're shaking in their boots. They're a little worried now in the land of the Philistines and in Edom and Moab and Canaan. They're all worried because if God can do this to the Egyptians, and the Egyptians being, the most powerful, so to speak, what are they going to do to these folk here, the Edomites and the Moabites? What chance do they have against the Israelites now? Okay. Sandy, you want to unmute Terror and Dread? Always good to start with Terror and Dread.
Sure, I will take terror and dread. Terror and dread descend upon them. Through the might of your arm, they are still as stone. Till your people cross over, Adonai, till your people cross over, Adonai, till your people cross whom you have ransomed. You will bring them and plant them in your own mountain, the place you made to dwell in, Adonai, the sanctuary. O my Lord, which your hands established, Adonai will reign forever and ever.
Adonai yimloch leolam va'ed. God will reign forever and ever. Yes, no, God's going to make sure that the Israelites are taken care of and we, win these battles. It's a nice thought. Again, we have a little trouble later, but right now everything feels good. Okay, a little more, Sandy.
The horses of Pharaoh with his chariots and riders went into the sea, and Adonai turned back on them the waters of the sea. But the Israelites marched on dry ground in the midst of the sea. Then Miriam the prophet, Aaron's sister, picked up a hand drum, and all the women went out after her and danced with hand drums.
And the women dancing with their timbrels, etc., etc. It's a good song. It's very catchy. Profitable, turns out as well. Made a little cash on that one, a blessed memory. That was one that stuck, to be sure. Mm-hmm. Fascinating sentence, though. I mean, honestly, when you look at the sentence in seriousness, there's a lot here to play with. Miriam, the prophet. Who made her a prophet? How did this happen? She gets this appellation here. It hasn't happened before, right? So this Miriam, and now Miriam gets a bump. She gets an upgrade here. She gets a promotion. She is now a prophet. Fine by me. Who am I to question? She is now a prophet. And then what's the next phrase?
Aaron's sister.
Aaron's sister. What happened to Moses?
Yeah, that's what I was wondering.
Yeah.
It's Aaron's sister. And so the reason why it's Aaron's sister, not Aaron, Moses' sister, the rabbis explained, I've alluded to this before, Moses, the man, gets swallowed up basically by his service. He is Moses the prophet. He's the right hand, so to speak, of God. And that's his primary relationship. His relationship is as prophet and as God's messenger on earth. Miriam and Moses don't grow up together, in the same way. Maybe for the first year or two, when Yocheved, swaddles and nurses Moses, but Moses grows up apart, and he grows up apart from his family. He's in the household of Egypt, one can assume, with not as much contact with Miriam. Miriam and Aaron are the ones in the backyard, playing together. They're the ones eating together at the dinner table. They're the ones busting each other's chops over whatever people argue about back then, right? They are actual siblings. They're the ones with relationship. Whereas Moses and Miriam and Moses and Aaron, frankly, don't have that same kind of sibling bond. And so that's why the rabbis say it's Aaron's sister, because they really have that sibling dynamic. Whereas Moses and Miriam, they are biologically siblings, but they don't have the same relationship as the closeness that they have with Aaron. And so that's sort of that sentence. And then, of course, the timbrel, the hand drum, whatever it is. Charismatic leadership. Very important, right? Moses has the gravitas, right? Moses is the man of God. Moses is the one who, and Aaron, frankly, as well. Miriam grabs a timbrel, doesn't say a darn word. She isn't creating a new song, she just grabs the timbrel, grabs the drum, and dances. And because of her joy and her, her sort of being a role model, her inspirational, energy, whatever you want to put it, all the women dance with her as well, which is really a beautiful image in different models, different styles of leadership, right? Miriam leads by example. She's joyful, other people are joyful, right? And that's always, I think, important when we think about leadership, that sometimes leadership can shape a community and shape a response. And that when, people are negative and sort of dour, it can filter down into the community. But if people have joy and energy and spirit, people pick up on that as well. And that's much more positive.
It's actually a beautiful image when we do it in the sanctuary and you see 3 generations of women, children, grandchildren.
Yeah.
It really is. It's just beautiful.
It is a beautiful thing. I'm with you. And Miriam actually does have a little bit of a line here. She has a little bit of singing, to be fair. Sandy, you want to finish that off for us? And Miriam chanted?
Sure. And Miriam chanted for them, sing to Adonai, for God has triumphed gloriously. Horse and driver, God is hurled into the sea. Then Moses caused Israel to set out from the Sea of Reeds. They went on into the wilderness of Shur. They traveled 3 days in the wilderness and found no water.
There we go. So we didn't even get out of the chapter, before we got problems, right? We got problems already. So we are victorious. We're marching from the sea. It's a schlep. Let's be fair. It's 3 days of walking, right? And that's not the easiest thing. And now they can't find any water. And now we got complaints. No canteens for them. They have nothing. And so they're out there in the wilderness to Schwitzy, like one can imagine, this is like, May, on our calendar now, but, because Passover is in April-ish, in Nisan. And so it's, May in the wilderness, it's hot. And so one can understand that people are less than amused or bemused or even seamused, but they are not, they're not happy at all. So Barbara, pick up here, please. They came to Marah.
They came to Marah, but they could not drink water of Marah because it was bitter. That is why it was named Marah. And the people grumbled against Moses, saying, "What shall we drink?" So he cried out to Adonai, and Adonai showed him a piece of wood. He threw it in the water, and the water became sweet. There, God made for them a fixed rule. There they were put to the test. God said, "If you will heed your God Adonai diligently, doing what is upright in God's sight, giving ear to God's commandments, and keeping all God's laws, then I will not bring upon you any of the diseases that I brought upon the Egyptians, for I, Adonai, am your healer." And then they came to Elim, where there were 12 springs of water and 70 palm trees, and they encamped there beside the water.
Counted each one. 1 palm tree, 2 palm tree. here again, they want to test your Hebrew skills, that they came to Marah, but they can't drink from Marah because it was bitter. That's why it was called Marah. Moror, remember her Passover, Moror is the bitter herb, right? So it's the same root. Marah means bitterness. And so they're sort of putting it a little bit on the nose for us. The water is bitter. Moses does a little magic here, throws a little wood into the water, and now it's delicious. Now it is Perrier. Now it is wonderful to drink. Just the best natural spring water, maybe a little cucumber in it to give it a little kick. It's a wonderful thing. And then God basically says, sort of gives the spoiler, sort of gives the headline, perhaps the topic sentence of the next few books of the Torah. Do the right thing. If you heed God, do what's upright, listen to the commandments, then you're not going to get smacked around like the Egyptians. Good line here, by the way, for I, Adonai, am your healer. There have been those who have used this sentence to justify not going to the doctor. Because who is the healer? God is the healer.
Jews don't go to the doctor because of that?
Yeah. It's the ultra-Orthodox movements in particular. You have ones that all folks don't want to go to the doctor. Because they think God's going to heal them, or like, during the pandemic, they had no problem breathing on each other and whatever because they felt if I get sick, I'll just pray and then God will heal me. God is my vaccine,
Hope it works.
Yeah, so they try to sort that out. So that's a little extra there for you. And yeah, they got the palm trees going. A little oasis, very nice. Lots of water, nice place to be. But they don't stay very long. They keep schlepping. And surprise, surprise, we got more problems. Barbara, you want to pick up there a little more, setting out?
Setting out from Elam, the whole Israelite community came to the wilderness of Sin, which is between Elam and Sinai, on the 15th day of the second month after their departure from the land of Egypt. In the wilderness, the whole Israelite community grumbled against Moses and Aaron. The Israelites said to them, if only we had died by the hand of Adonai in the land of Egypt, when we sat by the flesh pots, when we ate our fill of bread, for you have brought us out into this wilderness to starve this whole congregation to death.
Yeah, it's sort of interesting when you think about it. It was so wonderful when we were slaves. And, the work sort of sucked. Well, at least we had, a hamburger. It wasn't bad. We had, a little something. It was not exactly a Brazilian steakhouse, but at least there was stuff to eat. So they're upset. They're walking, the tummies are grumbling. I believe the expression is getting a little hangry. It's a little hard when you're hungry and you get a little bit little upset.
They need one of those candy bars.
Yeah, you need a Snickers. Yeah, you need
a
a Snickers to change their attitude. But there's no snickering, there's only grumbling going on. And if only we were dead in Egypt, because at least we would have, been dead, but we would have been well fed, which doesn't make a ton of sense to me. But I guess we have the argument is it, would you rather starve to death or, just like die quickly? I think most people would prefer a quicker sort of death than starvation. That takes a long time. It's a little bit depressing to think about. So let's keep going. But all these flesh pots, so we had our fill of bread. I just picture them just having those. Just like what's the Wimpy from Popeye. Yeah, a hamburger for today, a flesh pot tomorrow. It's trying to have their hamburger, and God says, "Hey, we'll fix this." And now we get to have manna. So that's our next little miracle here. David, you want to pick up here? There you are.
Hi. Okay.
Hey.
And Adonai said to Moses, I will rain down bread for you from the sky, And the people shall go out and gather each day that day's portion, that I may thus test them to see whether they will follow my instructions or not. But on the sixth day, when they apportion what they have brought in, it shall prove to be double the amount they gather each day. That's a good deal, huh?
That's
for
a
one.
good deal.
One of the first BOGOs, I guess.
Yeah, buy one, get one. Exactly right. It's interesting, and we'll see this language again a few times, but the idea of testing and that manna is a test. And it's meant to be a test of faith, that the people have to understand this is coming every day. They have to have the faith in that, except for Shabbat, that's going to come on the sixth day. You're going to get double portion. You're going to get two for one, but you have to have the faith that it's going to come down. So you can't gather more, one day and expect it to last, because it goes bad, each night. So you can only sort of bring your portion in. You have to have faith that's going to be enough, and tomorrow you'll have more. So Moses, keep going, David.
Moses and Aaron said to all the Israelites, by evening you shall know it was Adonai who brought you out from the land of Egypt. And in the morning you shall behold the presence of Adonai, because God has heard your grumblings against Adonai. For who are we that you should grumble against us? Since it is Adonai, Moses continued, who will give you flesh to eat in the evening and bread in the morning to the full? Because Adonai has heard the grumblings you utter. What is our part? Your grumbling is against Adonai, not against us.
Don't complain to me. Talk to my supervisor. It's not Moses. Like, it's not my fault. What do you want from me? I'm just the messenger. Don't bother me. Don't bother Aaron. All you're complaining, it's not about us. It's about God. And it's not going to end well if you guys keep on kvetching here. And again, one would have thought that people didn't need more proof that God was God and God brought them out of Egypt. They were there. Like, it didn't happen that long ago. But they're going to need another miracle. They're going to need another something to tide them over, much like the manna. They're going to need a spiritual infusion that God's going to give them, as well as a culinary infusion here. So they need a little bit of both. Okay. Then Moses said to Aaron, say to the whole Israel community, advance towards Adonai, who has heard your grumblings. Can't speak to my manager. And as Aaron spoke to the whole Israel community, they turned towards the wilderness, and there in a cloud appeared the presence of Adonai. Bum, bum, bum. So love it. God, cloud. And it's very theatrical. God is there. And then God again is going to speak to Moses. And Moses, the grumbling of the not hear it. What? Speak to us, say, by flesh and in the middle of bread, and you shall know that I am your God. In the evening, quail appeared and covered the camp. And in the morning, there was a fall of dew about the camp. When the fall of dew lifted, there over the surface of the wilderness lay a fine and flaky substance, as fine as frost on the ground. And so the Israelites see it. They turn to one another. What is this? We're going to be eating, falling bread from the sky. They didn't know what it was. And Moses said to them, this is the bread which Adonai has given you to eat. This is what Adonai has commanded. Each household shall gather as much as it requires to eat, and omer to a person for as many of you as there are. Each household shall fetch according to those in its tent. So the Israelites did so. Some gathered a lot, some gathered a little, but they were out gathering this special food here. And when they each measured it, by the omer, anyone who had gathered much had no excess, and anyone who gathered little had no deficiency. Each household had gathered as much as it needed to eat. And Moses tells them, hey, don't leave any of it over until morning. It doesn't get better. There's some foods you leave them out for a night. It gets better. Your soups, your stews, it gets better the next day. Not the manna. They paid no attention to Moses. Some of them left it out until the morning, and it became infested with maggots and stank. Bleh. Not great. Moses was angry with them, and so they gathered every morning as much as one needed to eat, for when the sun grew hot, it would melt. Not easy. It's all these manna rules. They've never seen it before, and so they have no idea how it's going to work. And so I think that's really going back to the idea of testing. And so like tests their faith, that really their entire existence depends on God. Because if God doesn't rain down the manna, on Wednesday, you're going hungry. If that's only the food you're going to get, it's just the manna. So they really have to have faith that it's going to last another day. I mean, so it's come down again another day, because it doesn't last until the next day. It rots. And so I think that's the concern that people have with manna, is that they're not in control, right? And we like to be in control of something as necessary, as food. We don't want to be sort of put in that position or dependent on another being or another force to feed us. We want to be able to go and grab whatever we want to eat, but they're forced to sort of be dependent on God and to have the faith that God's going to take care of them. And God's going to bring about the good stuff. Make sense? Yes, it does. Cool. Yeah, it would have been enough for us. It's never enough for us.
Just the opposite.
And so the sixth day, you get this whole thing too about the double on the food, which is by the way, in traditional circles, why you have 2 challahs on Friday night, because it's double the amount of food. So you get 2 challahs and not 1. 2 omers for each. When all the chieftains in the community came and told Moses, he said to them, this is what Adonai meant. Tomorrow is a day of rest, a holy Sabbath of Adonai. Bake what you would bake and boil what you would boil, and all that is left put aside to be kept till the morning. So they put it aside until morning, and it didn't turn foul. It wasn't gross. There were no maggots in it. I'm not sure how you cook with manna.
You don't have the manna cookbook?
I don't have the manna cookbook. I'm not sure what you do with it, because I guess given to understand, you take it off the ground, right? And you maybe dust the sand off it, whatever it is. You bring it back to your hut, but are you putting it on the fire and sort of making what? Manna cakes? You mix it with something? You don't have much to mix it with.
Bake what you would bake and boil what you would boil.
Sort of like farina, I don't like that. I'm not an oatmeal person.
Like farina or pancakes?
Yeah. I mean, the pancakes definitely are coming. That's in Leviticus, we get pancakes. But yeah, I don't know what they're doing with it. You got to mix it with something, perhaps. If you mix it with water, I guess it becomes a paste or a dough. I don't know. I'm very curious about it.
Salt.
They were eating a little salt.
Fat from animals. That.
Can you hear me?
Making like a toast or a French toast.
Right,
Israeli
leftover
toast.
quail to put on.
Leftover quail
for dinner.
later.
Back in the Al Cap in Little Abner. Hello?
Go ahead. Yeah,
I don't know what happened here.
I hear you still.
Can you hear me?
Yeah.
Hold on a second.
Like coriander.
Back in the day, Al Cap had a shmoo in this Little Abner.
Yes. Yeah.
You could do, if you sliced the shmoo, it tasted like, I don't know, maybe roast beef. And if you boiled it, it tasted like something else, eggs. And if you could cook it and dice it in about a lot of different ways. And however you did it, it would have a different taste. So maybe that's what this manna was like.
Yeah, that's definitely in the rabbinic imagination as it comes. It sort of has that, it tastes like whatever you're craving, whatever you want it to taste like. Because I think what we're going to see, we're basically there today. But so the next day, it's a Sabbath, right? You're not going to find any of it on the plains. So 6 days you shall gather, 7th day there's not going to be any. And but they still go out anyway. Where's the manna? It's not there. It's the Sabbath. So yeah, I don't know. I just wonder that manna comes down if you're in the mood for a nice steak, and it tastes sort of like a medium rare, ribeye or something. I don't know. Or
40 years.
For what I'm just saying, it's like if it's the same thing for 40 years, I mean, how much leftovers you're gonna eat? The same taste over
They
and
were
over
slaves. Come on, how long did they eat in Egypt?
According to them, they had cucumbers and leeks, and that's gonna come later. All this food they got. But I guess you're right. Simple tastes. That is how it works. Jews and food, it's very tricky. So they got a lot of complaints about their food. It's not whatever enough for me. Send it back. So a little picky. But yeah, wafers and honey. Yeah, it comes a little later. Wafers and honey. Okay, more manna next week, amongst other things. Wandering, we will go to Sinai. We're getting closer for Revelation, a few chapters away from the 10 Commandments. And so we'll probably get there next week, or if not there, at least pretty close. Okay, good studying with you all tonight.
Thank you.
Thanks, Rabbi.
Thank you.
Good night.
Bye, everyone.
Bye.
Bye, everybody.
All right.